Pokemon has a history of having Pokewides and domesticated Pokemon. So, Pokemon have been domesticated. This is very proved by Pokemon Sun and Moon. Well, you can really get taxi Pokemon to ride you around. And the Pokemon that have been domesticated in this game is Tauros, Stoutland, Lapras, Charizard, Mudsdale, Sarpedo, and Machamp. All of these Pokemon mon, mon, are domesticated. They don't need a Pokeball, and they can be called to help humans. But there have been a lot of Pokemon that have been domesticated, not just these Pokemon. And also, other Pokemon in the anime have also been domesticated. Altaria, Dragonelle, Flygon, Noivern, Mantine, Metang, Pelipper, Railmer, Mudsdale, and many more have likely been domesticated. You can also see in the manga, it's the same in the games as well. Riding Pokemon Hisi resembles Pokemon and Aurora as well. And you have also the Metzoaks, which is part of the Machamp line and Generation 3, and you also have the Rhydon and Generation 6, which you can literally ride on, not Rhyhorn, as well. You also have Rapidash, which have horse races, and there are many trainers that treat them like horses, domesticated horses as well. And then we have the interesting ones, the starters. You cannot encounter most starters in the wild. Most starters are given to you by the professor. These are given to new trainers as the first part of the Pokemon as well. And starters have varied throughout games. You have Pikachu, Eevee, and then you have your standard starters for all the games. All these Pokemon also have a massive gender imbalance as well. For example, we got Spaghetto. Most of the Spaghettos are male, but most people say it's because that's how the Pokemon is. But I have a theory for why this is. The reason why Spaghetto and most starters, with the exception of Pikachu and Eevee, are like the way it is that these Pokemon are extinct in the wild. There's a reason why you cannot find these Pokemon in the wild. It is because humans driven these Pokemon to extinction in the wild. And most of these Spaghettos and other starters are given to you by Pokemon breeders. They're the only ones that are able to breed these Pokemon as well. For example, games like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Ranger, starters are much easier to find in those games. Maybe someone that's right moves to a bunch of stars in Pokemon Ranger as well. Starters are very hard to get their hands on unless you breed them as well. Which is why several trainers are able to have starters despite them not supposed to having them, because they have not been given to by the professor or trusted people by the professor as well. Also, and several Pokemon can be caught underground and other ways as well. For example, the Island Scan as well. But most of these starters are usually given to by the professor. They'll give it to you by the professor or by someone, which means most of the starters are bred to be given to. Most of the starters are usually given to you by around level 5, which means they must have leveled up a couple of levels to overcome only wild Pokemon, which makes a lot of sense because the starters are meant to be your first Pokemon. Most only wild Pokemon are around level 2 to 3. You don't want your starter to be a level 1 Pokemon and to be annihilated by the Pidgey in Route 1. No, you want your starter to be strong at the time for that area and they're the first Pokemon you get as well. So these Pokemon are usually level 5, and they'll give it to you by the professor. It is most likely that these Pokemon are bred and given to professors to give out and other trusted people throughout the region as well. Well, and once you're ready for your Pokemon journey, you're usually given one of these Pokemon. Also, why these Pokemon are so well is because the professors and trusted people by the Pokemon League as well are only allowed to give them out. Which means that's why there's so few starters. And once you breed the starters yourself, you likely will not encounter another one ever. Even if you release them into the wild, they likely will not survive because of the gender imbalance. Because most of the starters you're given to are male. And I bet there's a reason why most of them are male. Because the male and females are usually kept for breeding. The males, you know, they can just really use dittos to make eggs. So they don't need the males. Sometimes they'll occasionally give a female out. I think that's how you get female starters. But they really just need dittos to breed Pokemon. So they don't really need female Charizards to breed the male Charizards. Sounds. They can just say, yep, dittos, and just put Charmander in the Pokemon. Give the Pokemon to professors and trusted people, which is most likely the case with starter Pokemon. It's a very interesting one. The only ones that are not like this is Pikachu and Eevee. Pikachu and Eevee, however, can be found in the wild really relatively easily in various games, and have not been put into extinction like many starters as well. Which is why Eevee and Pikachu don't have the same imbalance. Actually, Eevee does too. But again, Eevee could be found in the wild for such a long time. It was not a very rare Pokemon. But Eevee can be now found in the wild as well. But Eevee was originally supposed to be a starter as well. It is rarely found in the wild and mostly found around cities and towns. Wow. So Eevees are also likely, mostly, extinct in the wild with the exception of people breeding it as well. Well, and releasing them into the wild. Because even though something can be extinct in the wild, Pokemon trainers can release them into the wild. Again, in the games themselves, you can release Pokemon into the wild. And later generations, trainers have been doing this, releasing Eevees into the wild. Which means, around cities and major areas, you can find Eevees. They're not common, but they can be found in the wild. And they can be caught and bred as well. Which means around certain areas, there might be an Eevee breeder that's releasing hundreds of Eevees into the wild for no reason as well. But other Pokemon have been domesticated as well. We have Go-Go, Persian, Bootank, and of course Tauros, Growlithe, and many Pokemon as well. Pidgey, Sparrow. And I think many Pokemon are not I think the difference between real world and Pokemon is that Pokemon are naturally friendly towards humans. That's why you're able to bond with Pokemon so easily as well. Well, for example, dogs are easily able to bond with humans. That's why a lot of people keep dogs. And other domesticated animals are here to give us food or to help us in things. For example, water buffalo could be the real life equivalent to using Metaps to move around things and Metsokes, and fire type Pokemon to move around things. As well. Pokemon also can be caught and tamed as well. But Pokemon can be released as invasive species. Examples of invasive species in Pokemon as well, because of domesticated Pokemon, is Eevee. EVs are not really found in the wild, because they went extinct in the wild. And we know Pokemon can go extinct because the Husey Pokemon and a lot of Pokemon in the Husey region have gone extinct in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. A lot of these Pokemon, around 50 and 70 Pokemon, have gone extinct in the regions as well. Well, but some Pokemon were able to survive because they were domesticated, like Eevee. Eevee is a very popular Pokemon. So of course, Eevee can be found in a lot of places. Says, starting after Black and White. A lot of these Pokemon can be found around urban areas, especially Eevees. But Eevees are much more commonly found as well. But Eevees are mostly found around cities, similar to Mouse and Mousehold as well. Well, but yeah, that's basically what this video. So, Pokemon, a lot of species of Pokemon, probably a majority of species are likely domesticated as well. Of course, they do not have know every Pokemon species, and there are probably millions of Pokemon species undiscovered that we do not know about. For example, Earth likely has 30 million species, and we only discovered a couple million. Man, and Pokemon, they only have a 1,000 discovered. And there are many more Pokemon that we do not know about as well. And many Pokemon have not been found in the wild or not been able to be tamed by Pokeballs. Most of the Pokemon you probably have seen can be tamed and used by Pokeballs. Even Arceus, the god of all Pokemon, can be tamed and used by Pokeballs. Which means Pokemon can be tamed and used and bond with the Pokemon trainers. As well. But another mysterious thing, okay, and the video's not over yet, is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But the entire series of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon will be a whole video in itself. How are Pokemon able to build a civilization without human intervention? Which means we have been underestimating the intelligence of Pokemon. And that's basically this video. Goodbye.